Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and I'll be there for you when the rain starts to fall. Today I'm going to be reviewing my absolute favorite television series of all time, which really should have been done a long time ago. I don't know why it took me so long to get this review out. Friends.
And I just won $1 million.
Okay, now guys, let me try to explain why it took me so long. It took me a long time to watch the show. I actually watched it for the first time in 2018, you know, and I binged all 10 seasons one after the other, you know. It was really cool. The thing is that the reason that it took me 3 years to freaking record this video, you know, is because, like, well, I don't know, I guess I got a little sidetracked with other content on the channel and I went through a few hiatuses, you know, so I kind of wanted to, I don't know, I guess I kept postponing it, procrastinating, putting it off until finally I'm recording it now, you know, as part of my Chazzy playlist. I want to fill that playlist up with a lot of TV shows, so that's kind of one of the reasons. But anyway, so in case you guys don't know, Friends is a very popular sitcom that ran from 1994 to 2004, you know, so 10 years, 10 seasons, and it took me a long time to get into it, you know. I actually tried watching How I Met Your Mother before that, but I didn't really like it too much, and I have a cousin who loves it, you know, he really likes Friends, and so he got me into it. He convinced me to watch it, and it is the best decision I have ever made in my entire life because it is my favorite series. Now, there are a few different whoop, I'm getting a call here. I have no idea who you are, so decline. So there are a few different subcategories within what I consider to be my favorite series. For example, I could divide it into, for example, Friends is my favorite sitcom, you know, and Cobra Kai is my favorite actual series, you know. And it really depends, like, it depends, guys, you know, it depends. I love Cobra Kai, it really is awesome. But Friends, I don't know, I guess there's more nostalgia. No, Cobra Kai has more nostalgia because of the Karate Kid movies. But I don't know, Friends just has a special place. It's my favorite sitcom, you know, one of my favorite series ever. Now, today I'm going to talk a little bit about it, you know. Now, the thing with Friends is that every season has, it's like, sometimes I really admire writers on sitcoms because they have a lot of work ahead of them, you know. Like, it must be really hard for you to be able to to have ideas and write them down for shows throughout 10 years, you know. So, I don't know how certain people don't run out of ideas, like The Simpsons, for example, or Family Guy, you know. The Simpsons has been going on for, what, 30, 40 years? Like, how do they not run out of ideas? You know, it's freaking crazy. But anyway, so the thing is that Friends follows 6 different friends living in Manhattan, New York. We have Phoebe, we have Chandler, we have Joey, we have Ross, we have Rachel, and we have Monica. A lot of things happen throughout the series, and eventually, I really don't think that what I can say in this video will contain spoilers, because if you haven't seen Friends already at this point, you're just an idiot. So yeah. But in case you don't want the, I don't come off like a douche, spoilers ahead, okay? Eventually, there is a lot of dynamics in the show, a lot of different character dynamics, and a lot of dating going on, you know, and they really talk a lot of issues. Many of the jokes didn't age too well. There is a lot of homophobia and a little bit of prejudice and even some racism here and there, you know. So a lot of jokes did not age very well, but you have to understand that this took place in the 90s, so back then it was appropriate, you know. But I don't think that the references are even that dated, you know. I think I can still, I watched it in 2018 and I laughed a lot, you know. And it's really hard to pick a favorite character because I kind of see myself a little bit in all of them, you know. I mean, I'm very sarcastic like Chandler. I consider myself intelligent and very systematic and organized like Ross. I'm kind of like a neat freak and a tidy freak like Monica. I like to have everything in place, you know. And I consider myself to be kind of like a hard worker like Rachel, who came from nothing and eventually found a really good job. And I am a little strange and weird like Phoebe, you know. And sometimes I guess I can be a little bit of a dimwit like Joey. I noticed that I didn't say, because Joey is known for being dumb, but he has a really good way with the ladies, and unfortunately I do not, at least nowhere near him, you know. So, but I think I identify myself with each one of the characters. No, it's really hard to pick a favorite. It is really hard to pick a favorite, you know. But I mean, if I had to pick one to identify the most with, it would probably be Ross. I think I am definitely more of a Ross, you know. To this day, the debate is on whether Ross was justified in what he did with Rachel, the whole "we were on a break" thing. Let the record show that I am on Ross's side. I think that because they did break up, even if it was temporarily, he had the right to do whatever the hell he wanted. He could bang another chick if he wanted to. So yeah, I think Rachel just overreacted. So I'm on Ross's side there.
But if time was what you needed just to gain a little perspective.
We were on a break!
coffee house?
You bet.
Now, anyway, as the series goes on, there are a lot of changes, you know, and most notably, the relationships between certain characters are really out of whack. For example, Chandler and Monica were the two furthest possible. They were pretty much polar opposites as the show goes on, but then at a key moment, they start having feelings for each other. They eventually date and even get married, you know. They actually become a couple and go live together, which is crazy because out of all the characters on the show, they are probably, at least in my opinion, the ones who are the least likely to ever get together in that degree, you know. So I thought it was really, really interesting, you know. It was probably the most unexpected thing in the series, you know. There are so many twists and turns and so many iconic moments, you know. I think my favorite is probably the whole pivot thing where Ross has a new couch and he invites Rachel and Chandler to try to move it to his apartment, and then they're trying to turn it on the stairs and he goes, okay, pivot, and then Chandler goes, shut up. That's probably one of my favorite moments, if not my actual favorite moments, right up there with I think that the best moments in the series comes from either Joey or Chandler. They're actually bros, they're best friends. They actually live together for many of the seasons until eventually Chandler goes to live with Monica. And I don't know, I just think it's really cool. Friends is a sitcom and there is a lot of comedy, but there are also a lot of serious and dark moments, you know, so there is a lot of comic relief, but they do also tackle serious issues, you know, and that's what I love about sitcoms in general, you know. They always have the perfect balance of seriousness and, you know, craziness and antics, you know. And Ross, the poor guy, you know, he goes through so many divorces and he's actually had a crush on Rachel since they were in high school, you know, and he does date a few other girls, but eventually they do end up together. I think the most famous couple in the entire 90s and 2000s is him, probably right up there with Robin and I think Ted, his name was, from How I Met Your Mother. But anyway, so I was always rooting for Ross and Rachel to work out. You know, they had their problems, you know, and eventually there was the whole debate about, you know, the whole we were on a break thing, you know. There are a lot of really tense moments, like when they finally break up for real, you know, and they start crying. It was so crazy, guys. I cried a few times too. And because I watched one season after the other, it didn't really get stale, you know. And there are a lot of seasons, guys. 10 seasons is a lot, but believe me, if you still haven't seen Friends, once you start watching it and you like it, it just goes by so quickly. You know, I watched all 10 seasons probably in the course of maybe a few months, maybe a couple of months, maybe it took me, or maybe some weeks, you know, maybe less, I don't know. But when I finally finished the last season, I just felt so weird. Like, there is no way I actually finished, you know, there is no way this is actually done. God, I was like, I don't know. There was kind of like an itch, you know. It's like, what about the 11th or the 12th, you know, where I want to watch more. Now, Friends is a sitcom that had a lot of success here in Brazil as well. I think it's worldwide. It's the most famous sitcom, you know, without a doubt. But of course, it's much more famous in the US. And there are so many, because it happened in the 90s, you actually see token cameos from actors and actresses who would eventually go on to become big shots, you know. For example, Paul Rudd, who would later play Ant-Man in the Marvel Universe. You also had, I forgot her name, but the actress who went on to become the protagonist of Grey's Anatomy. I have no idea what her name is. We also see Bruce Willis, you know, who at that point was already starring in a few Die Hard movies, you know. We see a lot of people whose careers eventually skyrocket. You know, we see a young Cole Sprouse who went on to do The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody and a few other things. So it's really, really cool. It's really awesome, you know, and it's amazing, like, the influence this series had on TV, you know, because, for example, if you watch something more modern like the Nickelodeon shows like iCarly or Victorious or anything around that line, you can see that there are a lot of there is a lot of inspiration from Friends episodes, you know, things that I didn't know until I watched Friends, you know. It's like, hey, wait a second, another modern TV show had an episode just like that, so this is where they got it from. For example, the whole when Ross runs to the airport to meet up with Rachel and convince her to stay with him, you know, like, that was actually repeated in TV shows and also a few romantic movies as well, you know. So Friends really was the cornerstone for many sitcoms and also romantic movies, you know. The very final moment where Rachel says she got off the plane, you know, that was amazing. That made me cry, man. It made me whoop and cheer, you know, and applaud and stuff. And going back a little bit more, there were a few other cool moments, like when Monica and Chandler had sex for the first time, and it was like, well, yeah, they just officially ruined our friendship, you know. And I think that, you know, there are so many crazy character dynamics, man. It's amazing. You know, we had Tom Selleck playing Monica's love interest at one point. I forgot his name, Richard, you know, but he was much older than her. So, and also I think at one point he knew her when she was a kid or something, you know, or he was I don't know, it just got a little weird, but at the same time it felt good. But then she, because he didn't want to have kids anymore, she decided to break it off, even though she really loved him, you know. It was heartbreaking to see. But still, you know, a lot of really cool characters. It's very hard for you to dislike a character, even the ones who serve as primary antagonists to some degree, you know. And it's really cool, you know, seeing how there's so much to talk about, guys. There are 10 seasons worth of stories that I could share, you know. But of course, I don't want this video to get too long. I'm going to try to keep it under 20 minutes if that's even going to be possible, you know. And I think that every character has their own little perks, like I talked about at the beginning, you know. So it's really easy to relate to some of them, you know, each of them individually. And I think that it was really well casted, you know. It is what made certain actors and actresses become household names, like for example Jennifer Aniston. And some of these characters, some of these actors, like they pretty much they're only known today for what they did in Friends. They have such household names and they're so famous, but some of them didn't really expand too much after Friends, except for Jennifer Aniston, you know. David Schwimmer, Courtney Cox, and Matt LeBlanc, and I forgot the other guy's name. Matthew Perry, I believe, who played Chandler, and also we have Phoebe, Lisa Kudrow. Like, I don't think that they have expanded as much as Jennifer Aniston, you know, who today is pretty much one of the most famous and highest paid actresses in Hollywood, you know. But it's still really good to, like, whenever I see one of these characters, like, in another movie, you know, the actor or actress, I'm like, hey, it's what's his face or what's her face from Friends, you know. So it's really hard to shed the image that they created with this TV show, you know. It's really, really difficult, you know. Not that it's a bad thing. And I have seen them very, very infrequently in other TV shows. And they're starting to get into social media. Some of them have gotten into Instagram lately, which I think is really cool. So it's nice to see them still active. I think there was talks for a remake of sorts, you know, or bringing back the series to some degree. I really don't think it's a good idea to remake them, even if you're going to do it with I think it was like a reunion special or something, a 25-year reunion where they were going to bring everyone back together. Not a 20 year, 15 something. They were gonna do a one-off thing on HBO where they brought them all together for a 1 hour long special. I don't know. That might actually be cool, but rebooting the series isn't a good idea, you know. If it's not broken, don't fix it, you know. But still, it's really cool. It was actually removed from Netflix recently again. I guess it went back to HBO Max, HBO Plus, whatever it's called. But if it ever comes back to Netflix, I will definitely watch it. I'm not a big fan of rewatching TV shows. Like, I do enjoy it, but only after a long time, you know. Like, I recently watched Avatar and I'm rewatching Cobra Kai again because Avatar The Last Airbender. I'm rewatching Cobra Kai because of the 3rd season. I'm gonna watch it again, but it's only 3 seasons. Friends is 10, so it does get a little bit tiring.
Please tell me you know which one is our baby.
Well, that one has ducks on his t-shirt, and this one has clowns. And Ben was definitely wearing ducks. Or clowns.
But like in general, guys, I think that it is like, it's a milestone, it's a landmark, you know, and it is what inspired so many other TV shows and movies after it, you know, and it got me into the sitcom formula, you know, like all the sitcoms that I used to watch when I was a teenager, like Drake and Josh, for example, or iCarly that came afterwards, then Sam and Cat, you know, just to name a few, you know, like those, they were sitcoms, but like I never really knew what the formula was, you know, until I went back and watched the old ones. Like I watched the 1st season of How I Met Your Mother. Unfortunately, I didn't get into it as much as I did Friends, you know, so I still want to watch more, like Big Bang Theory, 2.5 Men, that 70s show. There are many others that I would like to see, you know, and I just gotta have the time and the patience for it, you know, because everything that I watch, I'm gonna want to review on this channel, so it does get a little exhausting. But anyway, so about Friends, it is a perfect sitcom for me. It is it's amazing. I will never get tired of it ever for as long as I live. I will never get bored of it. To me, it is the best sitcom ever, you know, and there's just so many cultural references, you know, like if you're somebody who's trying to study English and you want to learn a little bit about it, and also how the United States culture is, you know, American culture in general, you know, the references, the jokes, the Easter eggs, the slang, you know, all of that you find in Friends, you know. And I think that they actually have a set where you can visit in New York. I completely forgot the name. How could I forget about the name of the coffee joint that they always hung out at? I forgot, but I am of course gonna put it here in post, you know. I completely forgot the name of it. Jeez. something in Manhattan. But anyway, so you can also go there and actually go and take photos inside. It's like a tourist attraction now, you know, the place where they hung out at. And Rachel worked there as a waitress. Then later Joey did as well, but he was ashamed of it, you know. So yeah, there are a lot of things that happen. Chandler changed jobs. A lot of people get into different areas of field. Ross was a paleontologist, you know, worked at a museum. So it's really, really cool. It's really, really cool. You know, I think all of the characters, they come together so perfectly, and it was very well casted. You know, it couldn't have been more perfect. If you ever had replaced any of the actors or actresses, the whole thing would have just fallen to the ground. You know, like everything was perfect the way it was, in my honest opinion. And to me, Friends will go down in history as one of the greatest television series of all time. So yeah. If you still haven't watched it, it's not too late. If it's not on Netflix at the time of recording this video, you can sign up for HBO Plus. Believe me, it's definitely worth it. It is definitely worth it. You will not regret it, okay? So yeah, guys, there's probably so much more that I could have said. You know, there were so many iconic moments, you know, so many different things, but I don't want the video to get too long, and trying to remember them is just gonna be, it's gonna be crazy, you know. So yeah, let's just leave it at that, you know. Maybe in the future I'll come back and do a compilation of certain moments, you know, but for now I just want to talk a little bit about this television series, which I love so much. Flawless, 5 out of 5, 10 out of 10, 5 out of 5 stars. Anything that you guys said that you want to put it in, it's at flawless. To me, it's perfect, okay? So that's what I'm gonna leave it at, all right? So that's it, guys. This is Chazzy signing out for now, and as always, I will see you guys in the next video.